from Lagos, Nigeria. This is News Central. I'm Adeshawa Josh. Our top stories tonight. At least 13 people killed in attack on Katsina community as residents flee their homes for safety. Kapam residents protest at the Kaduna NNPC refinery over alleged destruction of farmlands caused by benzene chemical leaks. And UK and European Union announced landmark deal as Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says move sets nation backwards.
In business.
And China approval to establish electric vehicle factories in Nigeria.
And in sport, defending champions, Delta State top medals table after first day of action at the 22nd National Sport Festival in Abeokuta.
Welcome everyone. Tonight begins right now. We begin tonight in Katsina State, where at least 13 people were killed in a devastating attack on the Goawa community in Dutsinma local government. Eyewitness report says homes were torched and animals were slaughtered as the assault marks a sinister shift in tactics by the bandits, and it appears to be a psychological warfare aimed at terrorizing residents into submission. Eyewitnesses say, unlike previous raids, which focused on looting, the latest assault was characterized by destruction and brutality. They describe harrowing scenes as residents fled in droves, abandoning their homes in search of safety. A senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, has criticized the proposed bill on compulsory voting, describing it as unconstitutional. Let's take a look at that story more. The bill sponsored by the House Speaker, Tajuddin Abbas, proposes a 6-month jail term or 100,000 fine for eligible voters who fail to participate in elections. Falana argues that the bill violates citizens' rights to privacy, freedom of thought, and voluntary participation in elections. Falana wants the House to withdraw the bill and recommends electoral reforms like amending the Electoral Act to include proposals from the UWE's Electoral Reform Panel. Let's run you through the world's democracies where voting by eligible voters is compulsory and carries sanctions, fine or punishment, as you may like to put it. There are 22 of them. 2 of them are African nations, namely the Democratic Republic of Congo and Egypt. 7 of them are in South America, 5 in North America, 3 of them in Europe, 2 in Oceania, and 3 of them in Asia. So compulsory voting is absolutely not a weird idea. Let's bring in Fred Nzeko, a constitutional lawyer. He joins me now from Lagos. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm good to be with you.
So this bill is causing brouhaha, if you like it. What do you make of it?
Well, it is, I agree completely with Leonard Advocate Femi Falana that making voting compulsory infringes on the rights of the citizens, infringes on the freedom of citizens to make a choice to go left or right. In as much as there are some other countries, about 22 of them in the world, where voting is made compulsory, those countries do not brandish a good credential and democratic principles and observance of human rights. So they are not good examples. Out of 193, 95 countries of the world, and there are only 22 of them make voting compulsory, even when a lot of them in some of those countries You have incidences of seat-type syndrome of their leadership. They are not good examples of democracy. We practice democracy and we should follow countries with robust democracy that can be said to be good examples that can be emulated. And we agree that every law, every enactment intends to cure some ills or to address some issues or challenges. The question is, what does this proposition intend to cure? What challenge does it intend to arrest or to solve? Apart from the fact that there is voter apathy in Nigeria, which of course Nigeria is not alone. In as much as it is not encouraging the kind of the level of voter participation of the electorates during elections, we must find out what are the reasons and what are the fundamental causes why people of voting age will decide to stay away from voting arena to the extent that lawmakers will begin to think of making it compulsory and mandatory. For any law that makes a particular act mandatory, it means that it will go with some sanctions.
Zaka, let me come in here. Let me come in here quickly and just kind of break it down for you. You made a couple of notes, which is we need to, countries participating in this compulsory voting are not necessarily great democracies. Australia has a good democracy. Singapore has, quite a commendable democracy also. There's also another Western country there that is practicing it. It has become a well-known fact that voter apathy is stealing the joy of democracy. Fewer people come out to elect the government, and part of it is because people don't think that their votes count. When you have a situation where it is compulsory for you to vote from the age of 18, it means that there will be more turnout. Don't you think that will benefit democracy in the long run?
We agree that the more the voters participate in the voting process, the better for participatory democracy. But that is not enough to make it compulsory to the extent of making it mandatory and attach some sanctions, some punishment of 6 months imprisonment or a fine of 100,000 naira or both if one fails to participate in voting. We should ask ourselves, why do people abstain from voting? The reasons are not far-fetched. Number one, people feel that their votes don't count. The very moment you make people vote to count, you see large turnout. The example was in 2023, when there was a lot of sensitization of the public and people trooped out to vote, but incidentally, a lot of them were even compelled to go back and not to vote in some states. If you punish those who didn't come to vote, what do you do to those who compel them not to come and vote? Who threaten them with one measure of assault or the other if they insist on casting their vote? And what do you do to a politician that messes up the voting process and does not allow the voting pattern, or rather the votes of the people to count?
And Zeka, I'm going to come in here again.
If we want to cure that ill, we cannot create more problems in a bid to solve the problem.
Right. So what then do you say to people who say, with compulsory voting, more people will turn out, and if more people turn out, it means that politicians don't necessarily have to spend so much money on campaigning and cajoling people to come out to vote for them. And at the end of the day, that also means that there will be less and less money going into trying to buy votes at the end of the day. What do you say to people who are advocating for that?
Well, those who feel that it is it will amount to a waste of resources if after the campaigning and all the effort by the political parties and the election management body, people say don't come out to vote, must ask the critical question as to why do people decide not to come out to vote. There must be a reason. One is that if people feel that they will get dividends of democracy, they will come out to vote their choice. If the choice of the people is allowed to stand, the people will naturally come out to vote. If people are encouraged through good governance, the people will come out to vote. But in a situation where politicians do not deliver on their promises, they do not deliver on the mandate, they don't deliver on the electoral campaign promises, it is a very major discouraging factor that should even be the one to be punished. I expected that the National Assembly, especially the House of Representatives, should think of those things that will encourage the people to come out to vote. Right. By ensuring that the electoral process is better improved, ensuring that people are encouraged to come out, and ensuring that there is delivery of dividends of their voting. Because when you talk about democracy, it is anchored on the freedom of the people to make their choices. Such freedom cannot be by compulsion or cannot be by mandatory coercion or mandatory sanction if they to do so.
Nzeko, is voting a civic duty? And how do you define that?
I didn't hear you well.
Is voting a civic duty? And if yes, how do you define that?
Yes, voting is a civic duty. You can only encourage the people to discharge their civic responsibility. And that is not the only civic responsibility that the citizen has to undertake. Most of the civic responsibilities, you encourage the people not by sanction, but by moral suasion and by delivering the expectations of the majority of the people, such that anybody who fails to vote will even blame himself or herself for refusing to vote. But when there is nothing to encourage the people to come and decide their civic responsibility, you really don't blame them if they don't come out. Meanwhile, the political parties have a responsibility to ensure that there is good voter turnout by being responsible, and the security agencies should also ensure that there's good voter turnout by providing the enabling, secured environment for people to come out and discharge their civic responsibility. You cannot discharge your civic responsibility in an atmosphere that is threatening your life. That is what we are talking about.
Again, I have to play the devil's advocate here, but I hear you. There are people who say if there is compulsory voting, people are going to definitely turn out. And there is a parallel, like there is a connection between a huge turnout and the ability to cheat. You know, when there is a huge turnout, the opportunity to rig the election becomes slimmer. Do you agree?
I do not think so, because the rigging of election these days does not happen at the polling booths. Rigging of elections don't happen at the polling station. Rigging of elections happen at the collation center, where they try to turn 1 to 11 and turn 11 to become 71. That is where rigging takes place. At the polling stations these days, because of the introduction of technology, the beavers, and all other measures, voting does not, rigging does not take place at the polling stations. So what it now means is that even if the people turn out in large number and they still get their voting thwarted, it is a very big discouraging factor in subsequent election. What should encourage the people is good electoral practices, delivery of dividends of democracy, and delivery of the gains of voting. And once that is done, everybody of voting age will be encouraged to come and vote, not by sanction, but by display of patriotic zeal towards the country, because they will see their votes count.
Well, Fred, we're going to have to leave it there, but just to let you know that in Australia, if you don't vote and you're 18 and you don't have a strong reason, like you had an accident, you were sick, you'll pay $20. And if you're not able to defend your decision or you don't pay the $20, you're going to go to court where you're going to pay $330 Australian dollars, I beg your pardon. So anyway, it happens, and it has encouraged a huge turnout in that country over the years. There are those who say that Nigeria should consider it. A lot of democracies should consider it, because voter apathy has now become a thing. Thank you so much, Fred Nzeko, a constitutional lawyer, for joining us tonight.
Many thanks.
Let's take you through other stories on our bulletin tonight. We will take you back to our lead story, where we talked about at least 13 people being killed in a devastating attack on the Goawa community in Dutsinma local government. Eyewitness reports say homes were torched and animals slaughtered as the assault marks a sinister shift in tactics by the bandits and appears to be a psychological warfare aimed at terrorizing residents into submission. Our witnesses say, unlike previous raids, which focused on looting, the latest assault was characterized by destruction and brutality. Let's bring in our correspondent now, Jamil Mabai. He's been covering the story. He joins me live from Katsina. Hello, Jamil. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Can you describe for our viewers what the community under attack is like and what prompted this brutal assault?
Okay, what happened was, Goawa community has been one of the most resilient communities when it comes to defending their own territory. And, bandits have succeeded in bringing or making, other little communities to bow to their pressure. What I mean by that is they force them into having some kind of a peaceful arrangement where communities are fed up. So we have this arrangement. We're going to allow the bandits to do whatever they do in as much as they're not going to attack us. And Goawa community for a long period of time have these functional vigilante groups who have been proactive in defending their communities. But this time around, the bandits came with, a vengeance, with something that has never seen, and we have never seen something like this. They came, usually when they come to, communities, they steal items, they go away with their livestock and whatever they can get their hands on. But this time around, nothing was taken, nothing was stolen. They began to burn houses and, kill people. And the most horrific among them was, 5 young boys that were burnt alive by these bandits. And what happened? They were trying to escape when the bandits stormed Goawa village. They find, a place where they hid. Unfortunately, the bandits saw them and they put, where they were on fire. And they stayed until the fire completely burned. One of them tried to escape. When he came out, they shot him. And there was another, 3 young men who were also burnt alive. They sought refuge in one of the houses there. And the bandits came in, they saw them, they locked the door, they pushed them inside and locked the door. And they put petrol in those rooms and, started the fire. One of them, according to witnesses, according to some of them that I've interviewed, they told me that he was begging the bandits to shoot him with the AK-47, then to allow him burn, under the fire. But they, what they did was to even pour more petrol onto his body, and that was how he died. We were able to also visit, the cemeteries where their bones, were buried. And, a lot of their food items, cars, as you can see from the screen, were burned. And also 8 people were shot. So a total of 12 people died. A total of 14 houses were burned. And a total of 8 shops were also burned. And that was what really happened. And experts are saying this is, a shift in tactical, attacks by these bandits, because we've never seen something like this. And the only reason why these bandits could do this is just to incite fear in the minds of these people. It's becoming more like a psychological warfare, incite fear into the community so that they can begin to leave these communities, and bandits can now come over and take control and take leadership of happenings, around the area.
Jem, thank you so much for such a comprehensive report, which brings me to the question, if fear is what they're trying to incite in the people, is it working? What is the mood like now in that community?
Yeah, of course it's working. For the first time we've met a community that have been resilient for over 5 years. They've been defending their top. For the first time that has been broken, and it was broken badly. We have never seen, elderly people, you're interviewing them and they're crying woefully. So and you can see the families leaving, from the pictures they've shown. You can see them, the women are leaving, One person says it's a community of over 10,000 people. And yesterday, not a single lady, not a single woman, slept in that village. And the people are leaving. The head of the community told me that he's going to leave because help is not coming.
Clearly, these people are now living in fear. But quickly before you go, what has been the government's response to this?
The government is yet to respond to any or release any statement. The attack happened on Saturday, and we were there today early in the morning, and we left around 3 p.m. and we have not seen any government official. And we asked them whether any government representative or House of Reps or any other politician of whatever sort has reached out to them, to console them. They said none has done that. So, but we don't know, maybe probably tomorrow or next tomorrow.
Jamil, we're hoping that the government will respond soon. Just keep an eye on that story for us. Thank you so much for that brilliant reporting. Thank you. And stay safe. Coming up tonight, 2 weeks after Bamishe Ayonwole's killer bagged death sentence, her family is now demanding further probe into her death. We'll bring you details of this and more after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Tonight on News Central. I'm Adeshewa Josh. A reminder of our top stories. At least 13 people killed in attack on Katsina community as residents flee their homes for safety. Kapam residents protest at the Kaduna NNPC refinery over alleged destruction of farmlands caused by benzene chemical leaks. UK and European Union announce a landmark deal as Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says move sets nation backwards. Family of the late Bamishe Ayonwola, the 22-year-old fashion designer who was sexually molested and murdered in a BRT bus in 2022, has called on the government for further investigations into her death. While the BRT driver, Andrew Nyes, accused of killing her, has been sentenced to death, the family of the deceased wants the government to conduct a private investigation into other accomplices to Bamishe's murder. They also want Bamishe's belongings returned as well as consideration for compensation to the family.
If the family are saying, we want justice and you're not giving us justice, then give us fiat. Give us the power to investigate. Give us 6 months maximum. Others at large will be apprehended. We have the phone number of the killer driver. Give us fiat, whatever will come to you for, please grant us.
So what we are saying is that judgment was given, but justice has not been fully served. Because those culprits too, let them be identified, named, and brought to justice. Now that judgment has been given, why can't the phone be returned to the family? It is our property. She bought it with her money. So why is anybody other the place, or why are they still keeping it? If they are still keeping it, they want to give us the impression that further investigation is still on, to unravel the mystery and to know those 3 other people who are there inside the vehicle.
EFCC has arrested 120 suspects in Lagos over alleged internet fraud. A statement by Dele Oyewale, EFCC spokesperson, says more than 100 suspects were arrested on Monday across Lagos State. Oyewale says the anti-graft agency recovered 26 exotic cars and expensive jewelry, smartphones, laptops, and incriminating documents. The EFCC spokesperson says the suspect will be arraigned in court after investigation. Some residents from the Kapam community in Kaduna staged a peaceful protest on Monday at the Kaduna refinery to draw attention to the government's apparent silence over the destruction of their farmlands caused by benzene chemical leaks since August last year. The demonstrators, whose livelihoods depend heavily on agriculture, are demanding urgent compensation and a resolution to the issue, which they say has been neglected for too long. Last August, the residents of the community told News Central that the company promised to compensate them for the chemical that destroyed their farms and other properties, with no action to back up the promise. The protesters have resorted to blocking the refinery gate to get their voices heard and their demands met. To education. The Southeast Caucus in the House of Representatives has demanded the resignation of Ishaq Oloyede, the registrar of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board. The lawmakers also called for the cancellation of the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME. The caucus says a new UTME for 2025 should be conducted between July and August. It was led by Igariwe Enwo, who says the board's response had been grossly inadequate, citing poor communication, scheduling conflicts with ongoing WAEC examinations, as well as short notice given for the receipt. They argued that the situation has caused unnecessary trauma for students and families. It was a tragic Monday on Cairo Bridge along the Nyanya Kefi Road in Abuja, where scores are feared dead after a road collision. Eyewitnesses say the crash involved a trailer and a vehicle conveying sachet water, locally referred to as pure water. The incident comes barely 24 hours after a fatal crash claimed lives at the same location, raising concerns over the road safety along the busy corridor. Emergency responders are working to salvage the situation. South Africa's agriculture minister says securing the country's trade ties with the United States will be the top on the list of President Cyril Ramaphosa as he visits Washington this week to meet President Donald Trump. Ramaphosa will be accompanied by 4 cabinet ministers on the high-stakes visit and is expected to meet Donald Trump at the White House on Wednesday. Ties between Pretoria and Washington have plummeted since Trump took office in January, particularly because of South Africa's ties with Russia and China. Ramaphosa's visit, according to analysts, is seen as an attempt to reset the relationship. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's announcement of a new agreement with the European Union has triggered immediate backlash from the opposition Conservative Party. Party leader Kemi Badenoch slammed the deal as a, quote, surrender summit, claiming it breaches 5 key Tory red lines, including curbs on freedom of movement, financial contributions to the EU, and the protection of UK fishing rights. She pledged that a future Conservative government would reverse any parts of the agreement that fail their tests. Despite the criticism, Badenoch acknowledged some positive elements, including youth mobility schemes, a return of pet passports, and smoother EU border entry e-gates. Let's bring in our international correspondent, Afa E. She joins me now from London. It's good to see you. What are the sticking points for you in this deal, Afa?
Well, there's a lot of things in this deal that have been received quite positively by the UK High Street, by business leaders, and by, ordinary British people, things like UK holidaymakers, being able to use more e-gates in Europe, pets being able to travel more easily, a pet passport will be brought back. The UK will be able to sell various products back into the UK that it couldn't before, such as burgers and sausages. There'll be close cooperation on emissions through linking respective emissions trading systems with the EU. British steel exports will be protected from new EU rules and restrictive tariffs. And I think that's what, these are the positives, these are the things that people are pleased about. And actually what this is all about is about resetting the tone between the UK and the EU in this post-Brexit world where we are, but also a world where trading conditions are different, where the United States has imposed these tariffs. And actually, we need to forge closer and better relationships with the EU as our nearest neighbour. So it's about restructuring and recalibrating this cooperation between the EU and the UK economically, but politically and strategically as well. And it's a real admission by the United Kingdom that practical partnership is, and especially in this post-Brexit world. I think if we want to look at the negatives, and of course there are some, lots of people will see this as backsliding on the Brexit deal that was done, especially by Sir Keir Starmer, who has been staunchly, historically pro-Europe. But then we also know that Keir Starmer can change his mind. He has come across lately as someone who stands for anything or stands for nothing and won't fall for anything. And so, yes, we're used to him changing his mind.
Let me just
quickly... He seems to be following through on his very pro-Europe stance, which is why we're seeing this resetting of relationships today.
What then do you make of Kemi Badenoch's statement that it is a surrender summit? Is this view shared broadly amongst conservatives, or is this just a Kemi reaction to whatever
This is definitely something that's shared broadly amongst conservatives, because it was the Conservative Party that took the UK out of Europe, that have been staunchly pro-Brexit. And this is the thing, is that Brexit was a mandate that was voted for by the majority of British people. And so there has been an air of, if Brexit is where we are, it might be bad for us economically, and that has been proved by economists. But if that is where we are at the moment, then we should follow through on a deal that was voted for by the majority of British people. So she can be correct in saying that this is rowing back on the Brexit deal. And yes, it's definitely going to be an opinion that is shared by the majority of the Conservative Party. But even she herself acknowledges that there are some parts of this kind of resetting of relationships in these discussions. And it's also worth me saying that none of this has been ratified into law, and these are still just discussions at the moment. Right. You know, she talked about the positive point of potentially having more freedom through Europe for younger people to have those gap years and exchange programs. She has acknowledged that there are some positives in there.
That's right.
And yes, her opinion will be one that will be held throughout the Conservative Party.
Would you then say that 5 years on, majority of British people still agree with, you know, the impact of Brexit and the decision they've made? And what do you think? What do they think about this deal?
That's a really good question. Look, there's a lot of people who, if you speak to them and you said, you know, did you vote for Brexit? Did you vote for it again? Would say yes. There's a lot of people who would say no. I think a lot of people feel that we haven't really got the benefit from Brexit. That actually what it's meant is it's been harder for us to trade neighbours. It's meant a lot of complicated rules and things like the border between Northern Ireland, fishing, which is a sticking point, which has come up today. It's meant that it's made things difficult for British farmers. We perhaps haven't worked hard enough, I think, on making Brexit positive, because if the majority of British people voted for it, it's up to the subsequent government, which was the Conservative government, to deliver a Brexit deal that would be positive for the British people. And I think that hasn't happened. And so therefore, a lot of people have felt that we've been taken out of Europe but haven't reaped the benefits of that.
Much Afa E, our international correspondent journalist from London. Thank you so much for your thoughts on that story. Excellent reporting. Thank you. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, it will be Money Talks, the economy and sports. Do stay with us. Leko from our business desk is here to tell us about the latest partnership between China and Nigeria. Leko?
Yes, that's fantastic, I must say, because we've seen it happen in Morocco, Egypt, Rwanda, Kenya, where an electric vehicle manufacturing plant is being established in those countries. Now, China's trying to replicate that in Nigeria to actually boost local production of automobile in Nigeria. So I'll give you the details in a short while. In a pivotal step to strengthen bilateral relations, Chinese ambassador to Nigeria, Yu Donghai, emphasized the need for enhanced cooperation between China and Nigeria to develop the country's solid minerals sector by establishing electric vehicle factories. Now, during a meeting with the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dr. Dele Oyewale, Donghai outlined plans for Chinese investments in local manufacturing, citing Nigeria's abundant resources and large market. Both officials referenced recent agreements between President Tinubu and Xi Jinping aimed at deepening economic ties, and Oyewale encouraged Chinese firms to engage in full-cycle investments and commended efforts to tackle illegal mining in the sector. Away from that, cocoa prices settled mixed on Monday, with July ICE New York cocoa up 0.7% and London cocoa down 1% as supply concerns persist. Ivory Coast exports rose 10.5% year-on-year but slowed from earlier gains, while quality issues in the current mid-crop have led to increased bean rejections. And despite some inventory recovery in U.S. ports, global supply remains tight, with International Cocoa Organization reporting a record deficit for 2023 and 2024. Now, demand concerns linger as major chocolate makers report weaker sales, yet recent grindings data showed smaller than expected declines. Global oil prices declined on Monday amid market reactions to possible supply increases tied to U.S.-Iran nuclear talks, and Brent crude, a sweet track, fell about 0.53% to $64.18 per barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate traded nearly around $61.64 per barrel. The market remains volatile due to uncertainties around Federal Reserve policies and Russia-Ukraine diplomatic efforts, including the rise in global oil production. Now, the International Energy Agency reported 160,000 barrels per day production increase in April, and U.S. drilling activity showed a slight decrease, with 473 active rigs down to 24 from last year. Investors also watch U.S.-China trade relations and the geopolitical developments closely. When I round up with Nigeria Stock Exchange. Now, the Nigerian exchange ended slightly lower today as we track. Now we look at the all-share index, which actually dipped 0.01% to close at 109,697.83 in a close differential of 0.01%. So when you look at market capitalization, it actually remains strong, 68.94 trillion naira. Of course, I'm showing overall market resilience despite the flat close. Now we'll look at the sectoral performance as we track. Now the banking index actually fell 0.74% due to investor concerns over interest rates and regulatory pressures. You look at the insurance sector, 0.56%, reflecting mild optimism in the sector. And looking at the oil and gas sector, 0.19% is actually supported by stable crude prices that we saw. And of course, consumer goods led with 1.55%, signaling strong investor appetite and of course, consumer demand. Industrial goods, 0.17%, suggesting steady performance in the sector. All greens for the four, apart from the banking sector that actually dipped. And that is it. Looking at business stories for tonight, I am Lekon Onabanjo.
A favor here with me from our sports desk. The National Sports Festival is underway in Abeokuta, Ogun State. And
yes, of course.
Delta State, yes. Go on.
All right. I mean, interesting times ahead. I mean, Team Delta, who are the defending champions of the sports festival, have also begun on a good note. They're currently topping the medals table. Many more after this timeout. Defending champions Team Delta have surged to the top of the medals table at the 22nd National Sports Festival after impressive performances in Kung Fu and weightlifting. Delta overtook early leaders Team Cross River, who had claimed 3 gold medals in the men's 55-kilogram weightlifting category through King Kalu Ufiem in Shagamu. Now, Delta's Confidence Oyema and Favor Mike won gold in the female Kung Fu demonstration, while Edrin Aga added gold and silver in weightlifting. The invited junior athletes are third with 2 gold, 1 silver and 2 bronze medals, and Team Lagos sits fourth with Team Bayelsa, Team Rivers tied in 5th. In football, Team FCT, Ebonyi Kano and Delta women all secured wins as the group stage began, while Lagos and Niger States won their opening matches in men's handball. And now to table tennis. Africa's table tennis sensation Hannah Goddard surged into the 3rd round of the women's singles at the 2025 ITTM World Championships in Doha with a commanding 4-1 win over Brazil's Gulia Takashashi on Monday. The 16-year-old Egyptian star, who exited in the 2nd round in 2023, showed maturity and tactical brilliance after losing the first set 9-11, dominating the rest of the match, winning 4 straight games. Takakashi had earlier eliminated Nigeria's Hope Uduaka but could not withstand Goddard's intensity. Now, with this result, Goddard becomes the only African woman left in the singles draw. She now faces a formidable test against 4th seed Wang Yidi of China in the next round. Elsewhere, Nigeria's Quadri Aruna also qualified for the 3rd round of the men's singles after beating Hawk Boga 4-2. He will face Germany's Benedict Duda. And now to football. President of the Nigerian Football Federation, Ibrahim Musa Gusau, has been appointed president of the West African Football Union Zone B. The announcement followed the resignation of Ghana FA President Court Edwin Simeon Okraku, who stepped down after being elected to the CAF Executive Committee. Now, Wafo B's headquarters in Abidjan confirmed Gusau's elevation, citing strong support from member nations for his leadership and continuity. Gusau previously served as Wafo B's first vice president and has led the NFF since September 2022. His appointment comes just hours after Nigeria's under-20 team, the Flying Eagles, clinched bronze at the 2025 Africa Under-20 Cup of Nations in Egypt, securing the spot at the FIFA Under-20 World Cup. Still talking football, the semi-finals of the 2025 President Federation Cup men's competition takes center stage on Wednesday with a heavyweight and all-MPFL clash between Enugu Rangers and Kwara United set for the Mobolaji Johnson Arena in Lagos. The other semi-final will see Dark Horses, Ikorodu City and Abakaliki FC lock horns at the Wari Stadium in Abuja. Former champions Rangers dispatched Kano Pillars, Heartland FC, Bendel Insurance and Plateau United to reach this stage. Meanwhile, Kwara United advanced past Sinojo FC, Gombe United, Solution FC and Akwa United. In Abuja, surprise side Abakaliki FC, conquerors of Eyimba, Nasarawa United, Katsina United and Yobe Desert Stars meet rising force Ikorodu City, who edged Sunshine Stars on the 19 on penalties and saw off Crown FC, Beyond Limits FC and Wiki Toys of Bauchi. Both matches kick off at 4 p.m. Nigerian time. And to wrap up sports update, Black Queens of Ghana head coach Kim Lars Bokengeren has announced a 24-player squad for the upcoming international friendlies against Cote d'Ivoire, scheduled for May 30th and June 3rd, 2025. The match formed part of the team's preparations for the 2025 Women's African Cup of Nations, which will take place from July 5th to 26th in Morocco. The squad features a mix of experienced internationals and fresh faces, with most of the players retained from last month's friendly. Among the new additions are midfielder Nasi Amor of Ampam Dakwa Ladies and goalkeeper Afi Ameyaku of Northern Ladies. The Black Queens will face Le Elifon in the first match on May 30th, followed by a second encounter on the 3rd of June. And that wraps it up on Sports Update. And Favor Itwa tonight continues with Adeshawa.
Thanks, Favor. And now I have some dandy here with the latest in entertainment tonight. Sam.
I got to be honest with you. The other day we spoke about Scales, and now he's back in the news. Remember the viral song?
Yeah.
Now he's made new announcements about an upcoming project, and you won't believe who he's going to collaborate with. I'll tell you all the details after this quick break. Scales is back in business. Now his 2014 hit, Shake Buddy, is enjoying a viral moment on TikTok, and he's leveraging it. Now the unexpected viral moment has introduced the track to a new generation of listeners and put the spotlight back on Scales. Now talk about a commercial boost for him. Now Scales has announced the release date for his forthcoming album titled Martina's Son. He broke the news on X, where he also posted a video of himself in the studio alongside Nigerian gospel and tuba icon Yinka Ayefele. Now in the clip, the two are seen working on a track that samples one of Ayefele's beloved classics, hinting at a fusion of sounds for the upcoming album.
Got bigger, shit got realer. I don't see a thing when they cut my liver. I'm a winner, I'm not a quitter. I see this with this, I'm feeling bitter. So much bigger, so much.
And we're not expecting this one. What do you think?
Go to bed tonight with the thing ringing in my head. That's what happens. The revamp is usually, that's what happens. You wake up and you're like, and then it doesn't stop. It's a good one.
You know what? I think for those who are looking forward to it, well, we don't have any dates for when it drops, but when it does, I'll definitely bring that information
All
here.
right, okay.
Nollywood actress Mercy Johnson-Okogie has revealed that her recent weight loss was due to a health scare involving her thyroid. Now, in a conversation with the veteran actress Joke Silva, she shared that she underwent surgery to remove her thyroid following a cancer scare, which led to the significant lifestyle changes. Now, she explained that the experience was a major shift for her family, especially with a 6-month-old baby at the time. Now on lifelong medication, Johnson-Okogie acknowledged the physical challenges and emphasized the importance of adapting and finding peace with her new reality. I got to be honest. I think it's important for celebrities, people that we all look up to.
To come out and say, I don't want to use the word to say the truth, because there are people who thought she's losing weight because of the tea that she sells. And some people have accused her of leveraging this weight loss thing and attributing it to the tea. I don't think she did that. I don't know what the details are, and I don't want to speak to it. But I really commend her for coming out to say, I had a health scare, and that's why I've lost so much weight. And that takes the pressure off anyone who's trying to lose weight and, you know, thinking and modeling after her and saying, I have to take the tea. And when it doesn't happen, you really just hate yourself.
I got to be honest, we are happy that she's doing good. She's all right. She's healthy. And everyone now can rest. Well, those are the biggest stories in entertainment. I wish we had more time, but of course, we have to wrap it up here. I am Sam Dandy.
And that's the news tonight. But before we go, here's a reminder of our top stories. At least 13 people killed in attack on Katsina community as residents flee their homes for safety. Kapam residents protest at the Kaduna NNPC refinery over alleged destruction of farmlands caused by benzene chemical leaks. UK and European Union announced landmark deal as Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says move sets nation backwards. Please send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on your screen. Follow us on all social media platforms. We are at News Central TV. And of course, you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, AVO TV, and on YouTube. Many, many thanks for watching. I'm Adeshewa Josh. I'll see you on Tuesday.